Chapter 1. Words Made to Measure. Twilight was gathering, and Orpheus still wasn't here. Feared's heart beat faster, as it always did when day left him alone with the darkness. Curse that cheese-face! Where could he be? The birds were falling silent in the trees, as if the approach of night had stifled their voices, and the nearby mountains were turning black. You might have thought the setting sun had singed them. Soon the whole world would be black as pitch, even the grass beneath Feared's bare feet, and the ghosts would begin to whisper. Feared knew only one place where he felt safe from them, right behind Dustfinger, so close that he could feel his warmth. Dustfinger wasn't afraid of the night. He liked it. "Hearing them again, are you?" he asked, as Feared pressed close to him. "How many times do I have to tell you? There aren't any ghosts in this world, one of its few advantages." Dustfinger stood there, leaning against an oak tree, looking down the lonely road. In the distance, a street lamp cast its light on the cracked asphalt where a few houses huddled by the roadside. There were scarcely a dozen of them, standing close together as if they feared the night as much as Feared. The house where Cheeseface lived was the first on the road. There was a light on behind one of its windows. Dustfinger had been staring at it for more than an hour. Feared had often tried standing motionless like that, but his limbs simply would not keep still. "I'm going to find out where he is." "No, you're not." Dustfinger's face was as expressionless as ever, but his voice gave him away. Feared heard the impatience in it, and the hope that refused to die, although it had been disappointed so often before. "Are you sure he said Friday?" "Yes, and this is Friday, right?" Dustfinger just nodded, then pushed his shoulder-length hair back from his face. Feared had tried growing his own hair long, but it was so curly, tangled, and unruly that in the end he cut it short again with his knife. "Friday outside the village at 4 o'clock, that's what he said. Well, that dog of his growled at me as if it really craved a nice crunchy boy to eat." The wind blew through Feared's thin sweater, and he rubbed his arms, shivering. A good warm fire, that's what he'd have liked now, but Dustfinger wouldn't let him light so much as a match in this wind. 4 o'clock. Cursing quietly, Feared looked up at the darkening sky. He knew it was well past 4, even without a watch. "I tell you, he's making us wait on purpose, the stuck-up idiot." Dustfinger's thin lips twisted into a smile. Feared was finding it easier and easier to make him smile. Perhaps that was why he'd promised to take Feared too. Supposing Orpheus really did send Dustfinger back to his own world, created from paper, printers, ink, and an old man's words. "Oh, come on," thought Feared. How would Orpheus of all people succeed where all the others had failed? So many had tried it. The Stammer, Golden Eyes, Raven Tongue, swindlers who had taken their money. The light went out behind Orpheus's window, and Dustfinger abruptly straightened up. The door closed. The sound of footsteps echoed through the darkness, rapid, irregular footsteps. Then Orpheus appeared in the light of the single street lamp. Feared had privately nicknamed him Cheeseface because of his pale skin and the way he sweated like a piece of cheese in the sun. Breathing heavily, he walked down the steep slope of the road with his hellhound beside him. It was as ugly as a hyena. When Orpheus saw Dustfinger standing by the roadside, he stopped, smiled broadly, and waved at him. Feared grasped Dustfinger's arm. "Look at that silly grin! False as fool's gold," he whispered. "How can we trust him?" "Who said I trusted him? And what's the matter with you? You're all jittery. Would you rather stay here? Cars, moving pictures, canned music, light that keeps the night away." Dustfinger clambered over the knee-high wall beside the road. "You like all that. You'll be bored to death where I want to go." What was he talking about? As if he didn't know perfectly well that there was only one thing Feared wanted, to stay with him. He was about to reply angrily, but a sharp crack, like boots treading on a twig, made him spin around. Dustfinger had heard it too. He stopped and was listening, but there was nothing to be seen among the trees, only the branches moving in the wind, and the moth pale as a ghost that fluttered in Ferid's face. "I'm sorry it took longer than expected," cried Orpheus as he approached them. Ferid still couldn't grasp the fact that such a voice could emerge from that mouth. They had heard that Orpheus's voice in several villages, and Dustfinger had set out at once in search of it, but not until a week ago had they found the man himself in the library, reading fairy tales to a few children. None of the children seemed to notice the dwarf who suddenly slipped out from behind one of the bookshelves, crammed with well-thumbed books. But Dustfinger had seen him. He had lain in wait for Orpheus, approaching him just as he was about to get into his car again, and finally he'd shown him the book that Ferid had cursed more often than anything else on earth. "Oh, I know that book," Orpheus had breathed. "And as for you," he had added almost devoutly, looking at Dustfinger as if to stare the scars from his cheeks, "I know you too. You're the best thing in it, Dustfinger, the Fire Eater, who read you here into the saddest of all stories. Ah, no, don't say anything. You want to go back, don't you? But you can't find the door hidden among the letters on the page. Never mind. I can build you a new one with words made to measure, for a special price between friends, if you're really the man I take you for." A special price between friends? What a laugh! They'd had to promise him almost all their money, and then wait for him for hours in this god-forsaken spot on this windy night that smelled of ghosts. "Is the Martin in there?" Orpheus shone his flashlight on Dustfinger's backpack. "You know my dog doesn't like him." "No, he's finding something to eat." Dustfinger's eyes wandered to the book under Orpheus's arm. "Well, have you done it?" "Of course!" As Orpheus spoke, the hellhound bared his teeth and glared at Ferid. "To start with, the words were rather hard to find. Perhaps because I was so excited, as I told you at our first meeting. This book, Inkart," Orpheus stroked the volume, "was my favorite when I was a child. I was 11 when I last saw it. I kept borrowing it from our run-down library until it was stolen. Unfortunately, I hadn't been brave enough to steal it myself, and then someone else did, but I never forgot it. This book taught me once and for all how easily you can escape the world with the help of words. You can find friends between the pages of a book. Wonderful friends. Friends like you, Fire Eater, giants, fairies. Have you any idea how bitterly I wept when I read about your death? But you're still alive, and everything will be all right. You will retell the story." "I?" Dustfinger interrupted him with an amused look. "No, believe me, that's a task for others." Well, perhaps." Orpheus cleared his throat as if he felt embarrassed to have revealed so much of his feelings. "However that may be, it's a shame I can't go with you," he said, making for the wall beside the road with his curiously awkward gait. "But the reader has to stay behind. That's the iron rule. I've tried every way I could to read myself into the book, but it just doesn't work." Sighing, he stopped by the wall, put his hand under his ill-fitting jacket, and brought out a sheet of paper. "Well, this is what you asked for," he told Dustfinger. "Wonderful words just for you. A road of words to take you straight back again. Here, read it." Hesitantly, Dustfinger took the piece of paper. It was covered with fine, slanting handwriting, the letters tangled like thread. Dustfinger slowly ran his finger along the words, as if he had to